Hey guys, this is Jimmy, and I want to welcome you back to another video for you guys today. Now, this is going to be the start of a series of videos where I'll be conducting some fantasy bookings, in this case being WCW 1999. Now, this is actually something that I wanted to do for a really long time, but for whatever reason, I just wasn't able to get around to do it. The past couple of months, I've been thinking about doing this video, and I've just been coming up with ideas on how I would have fixed WCW in 99, and just looking at the landscape of what was going on that year. I mean, you saw the fizzling out of the NWO. They didn't truly break up. They just kind of petered out by the summer due to injuries from some of their top tier wrestlers, namely Hulk Hogan, who had to take time off to undergo knee surgery. Guys like Scott Steiner, Lex Luger, and Scott Hall were off TV throughout a good majority of 99. The roster wasn't looking so hot as the year progressed, and this was the year that WWF finally took over WCW's ratings for good. We all know what happened on the infamous January 4th edition, which, as of the time I'm recording this video, in a few days will mark the 23rd anniversary of the Finger Poke of Doom. There was just a lot of chaos going on, like behind the scenes, and like even during the television tapings, because WCW was starting to become a lot more mandated by Turner. The NWO had been a massive success in the pro wrestling world for almost 3 years at this point. And after a while, it got to a point where the angle started to become more and more diluted. More members were starting to join the group. And then it got to a point where they had to separate the NWO into two different entities. So you're either Team Wolfpack with Kevin Nash, Konnan, Sting, and Lex Luger, along with Randy Savage. And then you got like NWO Hollywood with Hulk Hogan leading his own pack, alongside Scott Norton, The Disciple, Eric Bischoff, Kurt Hennig, Buff Bagwell, Scott Steiner, Rick Rude, even like some of the B team members like Vincent, Brian Adams, Stevie Ray as well also joined the group. So those are kind of those examples of the NWO, and there's no denying just how influential that they've impacted the wrestling business. But at the same time, it's like you can only run this angle for so long. It's like, what do you do next? And I get from a financial standpoint, because considering that their merchandise sales were skyrocketing and people were buying all the merch, all the toys and the t-shirts and all the ring gear, whatnot. But, it definitely got to a point where it just became oversaturated. And, you got towards the end of 98, there was an anticipated match between Goldberg and Kevin Nash. So Kevin Nash, representing the Wolfpack at this point, he had won the World War III Battle Royal, so he is guaranteed a world title shot against then world champion Goldberg at Starrcade. So they had the match, and things were going well up until the ending. And, there was like a lot of outside interferences. And then the infamous moment where Scott Hall, disguised as a security guard, uses a taser gun on Goldberg that played a factor in costing Goldberg to not only lose the world title, but also ending his undefeated winning streak that he had been going through since he debuted in the company. So Kevin Nash wins the world title under some dubious circumstances. He had no idea what was going on. So he kind of addressed the issue the next night on Nitro, and he issued a challenge against Goldberg to defend the world title in a rematch at the Georgia Dome. So January 4th, a week later, heading into the new year. So that match was originally scheduled to take place at the same venue where Goldberg won his first world title. But unfortunately, that did not take place. So in a very uncommon segment that WCW did, was a segment where Goldberg was being charged for aggravated stalking by Miss Elizabeth, who at this point was representing NWO Hollywood. So Goldberg had to get taken out of the picture. And so Hulk Hogan steps in. And we hadn't seen Hulk Hogan in about a month or so. And, he was going on this talk show and he said that he was going to campaign for a role as a president, but that didn't go through. So Hogan comes back and he takes over Goldberg's place to take on Kevin Nash for the world title. Hogan hasn't gotten his full ring gear. He's dressed in street clothes. Kevin Nash has a bit of a standoff as well. He's posing the Wolfpack sign, and the crowd goes crazy. Hogan looking like he's gonna lay a hand on Nash, but instead gave us one of the most painful moves of all time by poking Kevin Nash in the middle of the chest. Kevin Nash got shot by a bullet, and then Hogan goes for a cover, has no idea what's going on. Ref makes a 3 count. The NWO just laughing their asses off. This was all a ruse. After several months in '98 where the Wolfpack and the Hollywood are going at it, now they're on good terms again. They're back together. And then Goldberg comes out of jail and he's being Goldberg, just plowing through all the NWO guys in the ring. And then Lex Luger, who was representing Wolfpack, looking like he's going to help Goldberg. But then Luger swerves and ambushes Goldberg from behind. It kind of leads to a mugging. And, basically Hogan and Nash are back together. They're on good terms again. So this kind of forms the NWO Elite. And they're just spraying all over Goldberg's back, and the NWO's back on top once again. Yeah, there's just a lot of weirdness that was going on. I don't necessarily think that the finger poke of doom killed the company. I know that seems to be kind of revisionist history, but they actually were doing the same amount of ratings that they were already doing up to this point. And I think the problem was the follow-up to it. It's they didn't really give a clear explanation as to why Hogan and Nash decided to patch things up. It was not very clear as to what would motivate them to realize that the error of their ways, that breaking them up was the right thing to do. Kevin Nash did win the world title, but it's why would Nash just sacrifice the world title belt over to a wrestler that he wasn't able to coexist all this time? It's it's very unheard of in wrestling. You would see a moment like that. And, and then the next several months, they would have Goldberg try to do what he can to get revenge over the wrestlers that screwed him over in the first place. But they didn't truly complete the story. I know Goldberg and Nash did have their eventual rematch at Spring Stampede, but by that point, Hogan took time off. He lost the world title at Uncensored, and then he continued to wrestle the following month at Spring Stampede, where they kind of wrote him off. And Goldberg took time off to film Universal Soldier or promote that movie since that was getting ready to come out. The injuries, like I mentioned, with Steiner, Luger, and Scott Hall even took time off as well throughout '99. So there was just a big gap that was left in WCW that just no one was there to fill in those shoes while they were gone. And I think they really suffered, because if you notice the ratings by spring of '99, they were just diminishing, and they were just gradually declining. I'm trying to recall the last several months of the NWO before they just became an afterthought. So they had the B team kind of split from the regular NWO because of the merger. There was a storyline between Stevie Ray and Vincent, who was going to lead the B team. The crowd just didn't really give a damn, and they were just looked as they just weren't looked as credible forces to take down the regular NWO with all the key players. So it's how are we supposed to take these guys seriously if they're if the rest of the B team look like complete phonies? Stevie Ray and Vincent just going at it to fight for control of the leadership of the B team. Who cares? Then Ric Flair would take over as president. All seems good because, folks were clamoring for Flair to come back. It was like, bring back Ric Flair. You did him dirty, Bischoff. And then Flair comes back, with the Horseman ceremony, and he and Bischoff had a match at Starrcade that ended under dubious circumstances. But Flair did have the rematch, beat Bischoff Nitro after Starrcade, and then was awarded the role as WCW president. Him and Hogan were going after the world title. Flair all of a sudden started to become all power hungry when there was no particular build up to that. It just seemed very out of character of him. I mean, you had to spend almost 3 years with the NWO being on top, and you have to deal with the evil authority figure like Eric Bischoff. And now all of a sudden we have to deal with yet another evil authority figure like Ric Flair. So it's no wonder why fans just started tuning off. And I think that's kind of the real downfall of WCW, in my opinion, because they just never stuck to their gun. It's like Goldberg's going to plow through all the NWO guys, and he was going to get the world title. He's going to fight Hogan again, but that never happened. And then the NWO just became a mere afterthought. Hulk Hogan became a babyface, came back under the red and yellow once again, which was a great moment. But it's a moment that doesn't really get brought up enough in this day and age, and it should have been a much, much bigger deal. That's basically what the whole point of this video is about, and just kind of address my grievances regarding about the direction that the company was headed. I mean, it didn't really have to take a massive nosedive the way it did. I mean, I know WWF was breathing down their necks. You would have some hidden gems also with some of those world title caliber matches on free TV, like Sting and DDP, which is really good. But you can only do so many marquee matches on free TV to a point where the novelty eventually wears off. Even if WWF is going to continue breathing down their necks, I think one of the things that WCW should have done is to reevaluate their roster and see where some of their certain wrestlers are in the stage of their careers, and see what they could do to rejuvenate them and to give them some sort of fresh direction. Obviously pushing some young talent as well, which is also another thing that WCW is pretty guilty of for the most part. I mean, they did make guys like Goldberg and even Diamond Dallas Page. And then there was some young crop of talent that were underutilized, or just felt like they could have been handled in a way where they felt like they could be bigger stars. So that's kind of my goal when it regards to doing this sort of reimagining of what the landscape of WCW 1999 would have been. I know I'm not by any means a professional wrestling booker, so I just want to make that point out known. But I'm definitely going to do my best to book this year to the best of my ability, and to kind of bring some closure to any ongoing storylines that have been going on. So that's basically what I hope to accomplish in WCW, is to really give them a clear sense of direction, and to really keep the ratings as steady as I possibly can, and keep the company in a position where they could still make money overall. And giving away those free matches on TV was only going to be a short-term quick fix that'll probably work out, like I said, in the short run. But in terms of big scale events, like putting big marquee matches on pay-per-views, I think this definitely should be something that should be taken under consideration. Yeah, with that said, this is sort of like an introduction to my wrestling fantasy booking of WCW 1999, and I look forward to doing a next series of videos about it. So stay tuned for that, and till then, this is Jimmy signing out.